Hello and welcome everyone to another episode here on the Womb Whispers podcast. Today it's all about resourcing through somatics when you're on the brink of burnout, especially. This is important. I realized the other day having a lot of conversations where I picked up on the energy and was basically, I'm on the brink of burnout wherever I look. Like whoever I was talking to, they were like, this is so exhausting at the moment. And it, I mentioned to Lisa one day, this it's like we're on the brink of collective burnout. And she was like, yeah, let's record something about that. Because the world seems to be on fire and at war wherever we look. And even though I'm aware that war has been going on in different parts of the world forever, it's at a degree where we can't overlook it anymore. And then there are the cosmological shifts and astrology and everything, the outdated and oppressive structures that are coming to the forefront, that are trying to hold on for dear life because they know their time is over. And we are unraveling all of that inside of us. We know it can't go on like this, yet we don't know how to proceed from here because it's unknown territory. And I do believe that especially highly sensitive and neuro-spicy folks do feel this. The question is, how can you care for yourself when even tending to your basic needs, like eating and drinking enough, might feel like too much of a chore? And I'm excited to explore this topic with my guest today, Lise Lønsmann. And in our conversation, we will talk about somatic healing and how it can help you deeply nourish yourself in an easeful way without without a lot of conscious extra effort. Me, I am Lisa Yara. I am a womb health practitioner supporting women and menstruating folks in their cyclical experience with menstrual cycle issues, with perimenopausal issues, through life transitions and crises. And my guest, Lise Lønsmann, please, Lise, tell us, who are you? Where do you live? What do you do? What is your work all about? And yeah, what are you passionate about?
Oh, so many things. Well, thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me to be here. And I loved your introduction. Who am I? What do I do? Well, I am a somatic practitioner and an embodiment mentor, and I work with women. I like to say heart-led women because I really work with women who are passionate about what they do, who are leading from their heart, who want to do better, who want to contribute to making this world better. So that's why I use the word heart-led. And I live in Aarhus, Denmark, but all of my work is online. So I do online somatic sessions, online women's circles, and I also have an embodiment community online. And my work is trauma informed. I often work with women who have been either in therapy for years or some other sort of on some other kind of healing journey, and they have just hit kind of a ceiling where they're like, this has helped, but it hasn't helped enough. What is it that I'm missing? And that part is often the body. And that's the world we're living in, right? The body is a machine. I just heard a male entrepreneur this week talk about the body as our machine, how to biohack it, and how to optimize and make it productive. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's, oh, yeah, I have so many words. So that's my work, is to untangle all of that, to help us meet the body in a way that isn't with our capitalist toxic productivity mindset of how can I make my body do more? How can I make my body do anything at all, right? To actually help us meet it in a compassionate, self-supportive way so we can learn to support ourselves, support our body, listen to our body, live in and with our body rather than fight it and be at war with it. So yeah, that's my work. And I am very passionate about it. I'm often intuitive and unstrategic and very passionate in the moment. I love community and connection and um, conversation, and I'm trying to bring that into my online work. Even though all of my work is online, I'm really trying to make it as much as possible so that it is the way it would be if we were sitting across from each other in an actual circle in a space together. So that is my intention with my healing work and the way I'm holding space.
Mm, thank you for that introduction. Yeah, our bodies, it's a creature body. It's an animal body. And that is slow. The world is moving much too fast for our bodies.
Mm.
In a very linear way, although we are all cyclical beings because life is cyclical. That's why I like to remind each other and myself that we are cyclical and that we don't have to do the same, show up the same every day. So I invite us into a little cycle check-in, meaning, Lisa, what day of your cycle are you on if you track? And or simply 1 to 3 words for how you are here today. What's the energy you bring?
Thank you. And I have to be honest and say that I do track my cycle, but I don't always know where I am in it. So this was a really helpful prompt for me to remind me that I actually would like to know. So this was an opportunity for me to practice. I am on day 19 and I am feeling good and grounded and a little bit slow and I guess a little brain foggy, which might be my cycle or might just be the season of life I'm in. I'm 44. So a little kind of less clear of mind that I would like to be. And also, I have days like that. So I'm not judging that. I'm just noticing it.
And also, those states of being can be very fruitful for conversations like ours.
Yes, I always say that I appreciate rambling. So it means that sometimes I get a little bit more rambly, but I think there's actually a lot of wisdom often in the rambling. So I am all for that. I hope you are too.
I am, definitely. I am on my day 8, which is I've just crossed over into my inner spring. And I'm unusually calm and grounded because usually my inner spring, I'm all over the place and anxious. And I enjoy this calm that is in my body and in my brain. So, yeah, that's how I'm here today. Let's dive into our topic, maybe by you telling us a little bit about how you came to doing what you're doing, because I guess that this is related somehow to your own story, because this is usually how we come to this work.
Yes, absolutely. I am, yeah, pretty much an expert in burnout, not because I've studied it. Well, also because I've studied it, but mainly because I've lived it. So absolutely, that has been my way into somatic work. I I was one of those women who had been in therapy and done all the healing work and hit the ceiling and was like, I guess this is I guess this is it. Like I was settling for, I guess this is as good as it gets. I guess with the trauma I have, with the inner wounds I'm holding, this is just life. Like I just have to deal with it not getting better. And it wasn't like it was bad or horrible, but there were just, my trauma was showing up in um, my relationships with others and especially my relationship with myself. I was very hard on myself, perfectionist, self-judging. And I was just like, well, I guess that's just me. And I kind of hit a ceiling and thought, you know what, I think I'm going to do just one more thing. I'm going to just try one more thing. And then I can at least say, like, I've done it. Like, I've tried it and it's not working, but I did it. So don't say that I didn't try. And I was honestly not expecting much from the somatics. I was like, I'm not sure what this is. but it was the pandemic, and for me, the pandemic meant that so many things was like they were moved online, which they weren't before. So I had more opportunities. Like there were few because I live in a small country, we don't have as many opportunities. So there definitely wasn't somatics in my local area. So the fact that it was I just connected with more people in the somatic world. It really got me curious, and I was like, let me try it out. And something just clicked for me. There was just this feeling of, oh, this is what I've been looking for in a very intuitive way. I have a background in dance and movement. Used to be a choreographer, and I trained as a dance teacher. So for me, the what I call the language of the body is a lot easier to speak than words and analyzing and like the talk therapy route. I'm not against talk therapy at all. I think it's helpful, beautiful, and also I think it has its limitations like anything. Like anything has limitations, right? And I just when I started doing somatics, I was like, oh, this is my kind of therapy. This is something it just felt natural. It felt the way of being vulnerable felt more natural and more organic. And the fact that I could process things like grief that had been living in my body for 40 years without having to talk about the grief and talking about what brought on the grief, but actually relating to the grief, moving with the grief, being with the grief, learning what the grief actually felt like in my body. That was, I can't even put into words how helpful that was. And again, it just made so much sense because my language is movement and body. So talk therapy has always felt a little bit like having to translate my experience into spoken word because, how do you describe the feeling of grief or the feeling of a 40-year-old pain deep in your soul, right? It's hard to put into words. So, yeah, for me, it felt like finally I had a space where I felt seen and heard and could actually express what I've been trying to express in therapy previously. So it made bringing up my story because you don't always have to bring up your trauma story in somatics, and I find that helpful because I realize now, being trauma informed, that in previous talk therapy sessions I'd gone over so many things so many times that I was actually re-traumatizing myself by keep like telling the story over and over.
Yeah.
And that feeling of like, therapy is hard and it's heavy and I have to keep going back to those places. That shifted for me into I don't have to let go of the stories. I don't have to forget and I don't have to never retell the story, but I can explore them in different ways. I can name things without having to chronologically retell all the painful things that happened. So it gave me a space where connecting with very painful wounds around gaslighting, for example. I grew up with narcissistic abuse, and those kinds of manipulations and gaslighting patterns that can just feel completely soul crushing. It's hard to go through and repeat the story, but to actually connect with the pain that it has caused and find a way to hold that differently and to slowly move into a space where you can support yourself around it. That was such a relief for me that there was actually tools for that. I was like, oh my goodness, why didn't anyone tell me about this? And the first tool that I learned is what we're talking about today, resourcing. Like when I learned about resourcing in one of my first sessions, I literally said, oh my goodness, why has no one ever taught me this? Like my whole being shifted into, oh, like I can actively support myself. I can actively make sure that I'm taken care of because no one had taught me that, right? That's the trauma of neglect. When you are emotionally neglected in your childhood, you learn to survive and to hang on for dear life, right? You learn to just get by and be happy if you're not dead, literally, right? That's the mindset of a child in survival mode. So I had never even considered, and this, I was a grown-up woman. Like this was it's not that many years ago. So I felt relieved and also a little bit stupid. I was like, oh my goodness, like is this a possibility? So it became very tangible for me the way that I could actually support myself. So my healing journey has been so much about resourcing. It's still my strongest tool because I can. And that's such a big shift of like, oh, I can actually actively and intentionally resource myself every day. That has changed how my hardest days and my hardest seasons look. I used to feel helpless and disappear into a black hole. I have a history of depression, and the fact that I can now resource myself through those times rather than sit and feel like there isn't much to do other than talk about how I'm feeling, which often doesn't feel that helpful. Um, that was life changing for me. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. My way into teaching somatics and holding space for others was my own journey. And I did not go in thinking that I would become a somatic practitioner. I am very nerdy, so I just wanted to study for myself to understand the tools better, to understand what was happening, and like in sessions. And that curiosity just turned into like a beautiful, because it weaves together so beautifully with my tools from my dance and movement background. So it just, the fact that you could put those very tangible tools together with my like movement curiosity and the what I call the language of the body, and just weave that together into this very body based and movement based toolbox has just been again, something clicked of like, oh, this is what I have to work with. Like it's just, or not have to, but feel called to work with. It wasn't until um but like the beginning of that training where I realized, oh, this is what work can feel like. I can work with something that feels natural and like this my language. I don't have to like, as you're talking about neurodivergence, and I self-diagnose as a highly sensitive person. Like I often do not fit into the like traditional spaces of this is what a workplace looks like. So it gave me that freedom to also be like, oh, this is how I could weave this together to a place where work actually doesn't feel as much as the work, but it feels like sharing the tools that have helped me. And that feels deeply meaningful, which is why I'm so passionate about somatics, because I'm like, everyone should know about this, because as just saying, it's really dire in the world we're living in, how we are not learning about this. We're not learning to connect with ourselves, and the systems are just pressuring us to go faster and disconnect more from ourselves. So for me, somatics has also been that kind of, I call it a quiet rebellion. I know you use this language also. It has been like a quiet, rebellious tool for dismantling the systems, saying, I don't want to be productive. I don't want to produce more. I don't want to expand. I don't want to become faster. I want to live. I want to feel. I want to be. So that kind of rebellion.
Yeah, the aliveness, like actually feeling, because when you sense, and like I want us to explore a little bit what somatics actually means for those who might not know and might not be aware of it. But actually sensing your emotions in the body, actually knowing, oh, this grief today as it shows up is in my heart. And maybe next week it's in your stomach or wherever. It might be in your little finger. But connecting to it is, I believe, what in the end makes us feel alive, actually feel something. Because the way society works, it's about logically talking through feelings and experiencing them through the logical mind, but they are a visceral body response. And those two can't be separated: mind, body, heart, soul, I dare say, to put it into the mix. And the soma, like the physical being of yourself, So how would you define somatics? And then, like, of course, somatic healing, but for someone who isn't familiar with this terminology.
Somatics is healing that starts in the body. So when we're talking talk therapy and traditional talk therapy, that is a top-down approach, as you're saying, of talking, staying in the mind, and then hoping that that will trickle down into the body and heal whatever is there, but not being very specific about the body at all. And somatics starts in the body. So that is bottom up, which means that we start, as you're saying, with feeling into what does this feeling feel like, where you're noticing it in the body. Sometimes it's not even that specific what is present. We're just noticing something that is present, but starting in the body. And from there, letting that healing move up, so to speak, up into the mind, rather than analyzing everything and making it about understanding. Because as I see it, and this is also the idea behind somatic healing, when we talk about things and keep talking about it and keep analyzing, it's actually a way of staying out of the body. It's a way of avoiding our feelings. So this is why, and I'm not speaking against talk therapy, but if talk therapy is not aware of the body at all, it can actually do more harm than help you. Because, as you're saying, we are living in a body. Our body experiences everything. My point of view is that the body remembers everything. So to me, somatics is about connecting with all the things that our body remembers. And this is the good things, the hard things, the things that we can't put into words. This is also why it's such a helpful practice and a helpful tool, because there are many things we can't put into words, right? If we experience something when we are 2, 3, 4 years old, we might not be able to even describe what it was. We just have a feeling that something was overwhelming, or something was unsafe, or something was something. We might not even know what word to describe it with. So to me, that's what somatics is, a way of honoring everything that your body remembers.
Mm. Yeah, it's actually really fascinating. I'm reminded that, like, recently in conversations with my husband, or in situations with my husband, because he's very, very aware of the work I do. I talk a lot with him about it. And also for my own journey, and like situations with my family then bring up this thing that I, as you say, can't put into words. And having him now, because back then no one was listening to me, I wasn't able to voice it. I didn't feel I was allowed to give voice to that. And so now I'm basically going back to that. And he is really patient and letting me look for words, find the words, try some word on, finding, oh no, it must be this word. And then starting to make sense of the experience I had when I was 3 or 4 or 5. And through finally, because for me, I am a verbal processor in that sense, that connects for me, the verbal processing, the throat connects my brain and my body. So I know I need to get it out, as in the vibration, the energy needs to get out. So I need to verbalize it. And this is so incredibly healing to, as you say, top, bottom up, to come from the body. I sense something isn't quite right, but I can't put my finger on it. And having the space to experience and feel into that, I'm able to express. And then at some point, my mind can also make logical sense of it. And that's when, like, this total wholeness comes in for me. So
I hear you, and I love those moments when it does make sense, and when we do understand, and we can understand the wholeness of, like, what happened, why am I feeling this way. And I also want to say that I don't think we always have to understand the whole thing. Sometimes it can be really helpful to just let ourselves be with an emotion, especially if it's something that we've been holding our whole lives. So if it's something where we're almost on autopilot, like I see a lot of my clients who are living in what I call it, or what is called a functional freeze response, which again, like, I know that space so well, of just letting yourself be, like, not feeling too much. I lived most of my life being quite numb, like not even knowing what I felt. Like, I knew logically, I like this person, or I don't want to do this thing. Like, I knew it logically, but I didn't actually feel anything in my body. I didn't feel boundaries, for example, which meant that I often let people overstep my boundaries because I couldn't actually feel where my boundaries were. So I didn't know when something was, too far, or when I was like, this is not the place for me. So it's just, I think this is also where somatics is different from talk therapy, because there isn't that need to kind of put things into boxes or fix things. It's really about exploring and being with. And some of the core principles that I work from are curiosity and non-judgment, which means that we are not judging what is coming up. We're not trying to understand it. We're not trying to fix it. We're not even trying to change it. And that, I think, is quite radical. The fact that we're not connecting with a feeling to make it go away, right? That's how we have learned in more like traditional like mindset coaching, or anything that's linked to how can we make this go away.
Overcome your fear.
Exactly. It comes back to that, like, how can we get you productive again, right? So that kind of thinking is not actually about healing. The goal there is to get you back to be productive. This is why I think productivity plays in so much into healing in general, because are we healing because we want to heal and get better, or are we healing because we want to get back to work so that we fit into all the boxes, right? This is also where this is my approach to resourcing also. Like, are we resourcing because we want to take care of ourselves, or are we resourcing and supporting ourselves because we need to get back to being productive? I think there's a big difference there, because the judgment of I'm not productive enough is can be really damaging on our healing process. So,
and I just want to name being productive. As you say, it's not about, like, the goal should not be to be productive and functional in a dysfunctional societal structure.
yes, I love that point. If you're not functional in a dysfunctional structure, you are right on. That's just a symptom. It's not about you. It's this. I mean, this is how I see burnout. I see burnout as a symptom of the system not working. It's not about the person. It feels very personal when we burn out, because it feels like your world is falling apart, right? Because you can't show up for the things you used to be able to show up for. But it's such a systemic issue. It really, really is. It's massive.
Yeah. And I meant, like, productivity, not in the usual capitalist sense of you have to be a productive member of society, but like getting back to a kind of productivity that is your natural instinct, so to speak. Like a productivity, because we like creating things. We are creators. Like, and
Absolutely.
maybe that's like a term to use, is like getting back to a state where you can actually create your life you want to live and feel.
But this is also this is so much about the society we live in, right? Because when we're being productive, we're also talking about commodities, right? You need to produce something that we can sell to make the machine run, right?
Yeah.
That is not, again, this is survival, right? Keeps us all in this survival mode. Pushes us into this, as I say, functional freeze response, where we're just like living in that state of like, I just got to get to the next thing. And I got to, as I'm saying it, I can feel myself holding my breath and being like, oh my goodness, I have to get to the thing. Whereas if your intention is, I want to create, I want to contribute, as you're saying, that's natural, right? We are social beings. We want to create, we want to contribute, we want to be curious and make things better. And we're excited about things, but that productivity kills our excitement, right? Because it just makes us focus on surviving, not on actually contributing our, natural gifts. It's toxic productivity is not interested in us doing well or thriving. That's not important, right? So I think that's a really big difference. And I love the word create, and being a creator. I think that is it's beautiful to come back to that, because as you're saying, it keeps us connected with our aliveness.
There was another thought I had about productivity. Yes. because someone might now think, oh, somatics is about me getting back to a place of productivity. The thing is that we all live in this capitalist world, and we have to, in part, make a living in a capitalist world that is a lot set on exploiting our own labor, exploiting ourselves, stepping over our own boundaries, or allowing others to step over them. And there is a struggle, and I just want to name that it's okay to experience this. It's not okay that the struggle is there. The structures are not conducive to our health, but I understand that you're struggling and it's not your fault. And I just wanted to mention that for anyone who feels like, yeah, but I need to be productive because I have to get food on the table.
Yeah, yes. That is the thing in the world we're living in, right? That we have to have, like, even those of us who are really passionate about healing and untangling the systems, we're still living within the systems, right? We can't make them go away. So we need to learn to navigate, how do we untangle this while still living within those systems? And that is so hard. It's so hard because I know that we're talking about the systems falling apart and the change is coming. And, when we're being hopeful, that's where we look in. And also the reality is that those systems are strong, right? They are strong. They're rigid as fuck, but they are strong in the sense that we can't just, push them over. This is why the struggle is so hard, because they are so intertwined with each other. And there are people who will, do anything to make them not fall apart. So this is the tension. This is the time we're living in, right? Where a lot of us are waking up, seeing that this is not, as we just said, like, burnout is not about me. It's about the world I'm living in, and that is hard. And still, yes, you do have to put food on the table. You do have to sell your time for money. That is the reality we're living in, which is why somatics and resourcing is so important, because if we wake up in the morning thinking, let me change the system, it's going to be a long day, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas if we can focus and say, what can I do for me today? How can I support myself? And I think the little changes we can do by somatically resourcing, and this means, let me talk a little bit about different kinds of resourcing.
I was just about to say, this is a perfect segue into the part where we talk about what can you actually do.
Let me start by the simple ways, because I love anything that is simple, especially if we're in a state of, oh my goodness, I already have 500 things on my to-do list. Are you going to tell me 15 things more to do every day or week? That's not going to happen, right? So I love the simple little somatic practices. This can be something as simple as breathing, right? That's a number one. Everyone knows that if you take a time to take just a few more deep breaths, or just pause and just say, I'm just going to take 30 seconds. Right? Let's just do it now together, right? Let's just take a breath. And just so right there, you can already notice things shifting in your body, right? You might not know what it is. It might not have fixed everything, but you can notice, oh, that's a part of me slowing down. This is another one of my favorite somatic practices, slowing down. We can slow down anywhere in our day, and it can literally be, I'm making your coffee in the morning. Like, just take 2 minutes extra and just do it a little bit slower. Just notice what it feels like to, hear the water hit the cup, or to sip that coffee, or to smell it before, all of those little things taken in, using our senses, feeling in our body. It can be taking an extra moment to stretch when you're waking in the morning. Just be like, oh my goodness, let me feel my body. Let me just be in my body. It doesn't change the fact that we have to get into a busy day and that we have to have things that we worry about. But those little things, it could be, in a busy meeting where you're like, oh my goodness, this is getting so heady. And I'm just, I can't keep being in this heady space, putting your feet on the floor. Mm-hmm. You can literally do this while someone else is talking, right? Putting your feet on the floor, maybe putting your hands on your thighs, just taking a moment to notice, where am I in my body? How am I feeling?
Oh, I want to add also stroking your thighs, because no one sees it under the table, but just this gives this extra sense of, hey, I've got you. It's all right.
Absolutely. Self-touch is So important. Again, we live in such busy times that often through the day there isn't like a natural, relaxed physical connection that there would be if we were living like in more of a village community kind of vibe where there was space, where there wasn't always time pressure to do something, right? So self-touch is very healing. Again, you can do this in the morning. You can maybe put a hand or two on your heart. Again, just take a breath, just feel your, connection with yourself. Sometimes I really like when we're saying things to ourselves that can feel really supportive. So if you can find a sentence that feels supportive, it could be something as simple as I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Just letting yourself know I am here. All of your parts are listening, right? So let all parts of you know I'm here. That is especially helpful if we grew up in any way where we were parentified and had to hold too much responsibility for others, knowing that we are here for ourselves. Keep holding, like making that a practice, reminding ourselves that we are here. So yeah, any sort of self-touch, squeezing your hands together. Again, you can do this anywhere, standing in line, waiting for the bus. Just like letting yourself, like it's almost like waking your body up a little bit, right? Being like, okay, I'm just being present with my body. You can do this for longer, right? If you have time, take 5 or 10 or 15 minutes to do self-touch, to do deep breathing, to put a hand on your heart. My favorite somatic practice is a self-check-in. Simply checking in with yourself, how you're doing, not to fix anything, not to, check in and notice, oh, I'm feeling sad. How do I make that go away? But to simply check in and say, how am I feeling? This is how I'm feeling. I'm noticing that. Again, slowing down, breathing. Again, maybe with self-touch, maybe putting a hand on the heart saying, how am I feeling? If you're in that place of overwhelm, if you're in functional freeze, if you're feeling numb, your response will be, I don't know. I have no idea how I'm feeling. And again, that's just a symptom. That's fully valid. Often we don't know how we're feeling because we haven't been taught to feel our feelings. That is how we start. Like my first many somatic sessions, I was like, I don't know. I don't feel anything. So just practicing being with ourselves, practicing a relationship where we are tending to ourselves, practicing that throughout the day, throughout the week. And then if we want to, and if we have the space, right? If we're on the brink of burnout, we might not have the space. But as we practice this, we can also look at how can I resource with other people? Because co-regulating our nervous system with other people is so powerful. So look at how can I resource myself in community? Is there a space where I can go and be held? This could be, choir practice, like go and sing with others just for the joy of it. Not because I have to or not because it's, there's some goal, but just because I freaking love singing, right? This could be dancing. This could be, it could literally be anything, a knitting circle or anything. I love anything that's resourcing through creativity or using your hands, using your body, not in a like I have to dance to move my body, but to actually feel and be in your body. So anything like I used to do sensitive yoga, for example. I loved that because it was so much about coming back to the body and feeling every position and feeling your way through it. So anything where you're like, how can I be together with others? How can I intentionally move into my day and my week? How can I connect in ways that resource me, that fill me up, that make me feel alive, that make me come back to the deepest part of me, that is that breathing humanness, right? That isn't about how do I navigate society or how am I feeling, but that is just the being of us, right? It's so simple and it's so hard because we learn to disconnect from that. So resourcing is about coming back to that, letting ourselves connect with our own aliveness, filling up our energy because we want to take care of ourselves. So I really see resourcing as drinking in energy. And this can be from any sort of activity, anything you enjoy, watching a sunset, looking at a color you love. Literally, like I always place resources in front of me when I'm doing healing work. So I always have something in front of me that looks supportive, that I know will be a resource. So if I'm sitting here sharing about something that's difficult, or I'm with a client and there's a lot of tension in the room, having a resource in my hand, again, the touch, the gentle squeezing, the being present with a resource, the feeling. This is glass, right? Feeling the glass, the edges, looking at the color, being really present with the thing. That is also resourcing, allowing ourselves to be present, which sounds so simple. And if you have lived your whole life in that fast-paced autopilot that state that most of us have, right? It's also it can be a really difficult practice. It's beautiful, it's profound, but it's not necessarily easy.
And that's all about what I notice, all about the senses, which makes a lot of sense because sensations bring us back to the body, and our body only ever lives in the here and now. So that's why I love that your affirmation or mantra, or however you want to call it, was not, oh, I love myself, which is like what a lot of the wellness spirituality space would have you do. Oh, just tell yourself that you love yourself. You might not be able to access that right now. And if it doesn't seem believable to your system, it has no effect. So the simple fact of I am here. Yes, I can agree that I am here. I do believe that I am here. And at the same time, you said it. It has this double meaning of I'm here for myself too. I'm not just here in my body in this moment. I'm also here for myself.
Yes, it's really about us relating to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Relating to ourselves as a person that we can witness, that we can take care of, that we can be present with. And I loved your point of having resistance to the I love you affirmations. By the way, I don't do affirmations. I think affirmations, again, can be more harmful than helpful, because if we're holding deep trauma wounds of self-hatred, for example, which is sadly very common, being encouraged or sometimes almost forced to tell yourself that you love yourself is just going to hate yourself more. Yeah. It make you hate yourself more. So that is really important, because that's bypassing, right? Going into, well, I hope that you can learn to love yourself. Yeah, well, first you have to want to even be with yourself, right? So there's a getting to I love myself. That's the end, right? That's not the beginning of healing. So
I tend to say that because I come from struggle with eating disorder, and I said because we are at war with ourselves, with our bodies. And the first step in a war between nations is not, oh, we fall into each other's arms and embrace each other. The first step is laying down the weapons, a truce. And from that place, you can start listening. And then this relationship, because you talked about relating, it's all about a relationship to the self, to the body, to each other, to time, to money, to productivity, to our emotions. It's always about relationships. And relationships, we all know that aren't always easy and always smooth, but they are something that we can move with. And when there is a relationship, then there will be trust that's building slowly over time, and respect for the other, if the other is another person, another being, or the body. And that to me is more important. Yes, there may be love at the end. And if not, I don't care, because this respect and the trust takes me the longest way.
Exactly. And I love that image and the symbolism of war and laying down your weapons. I agree. I think peace is so important. Peace is, again, this is patriarchy, right? This is the colonizer mindset, right? We are at war with ourselves. We're at war with each other. And that laying down the weapons, actually being able to, quote unquote, be in the same room, right? Can you imagine if people could be in the same room and have a peaceful conversation about the things they were wildly in disagreement about, right? That would be such a big step. That's what we're practicing in somatics. Learning to be with yourself, learning to get to know those parts of yourself that are at war with each other, the parts of yourself that hate yourself, right? This is complex. And at the same time, it's about learning to hold that space, to build the capacity in your body. And this is what resourcing does. Resourcing helps us build that capacity. So we might start with a very, very small capacity of just not being able to be with ourselves. And from there, we slowly, as we resource, we build that capacity. And it's a little bit like it's a birth process. So sometimes we grow it, and then it sometimes shrinks a little bit again, and then it grows a little bit, and it shrinks a little bit again. So that expansion and contraction helps build elasticity, flexibility, so that we can learn to be with like really uncomfortable feelings. And this is why I love that image of like two peoples fighting, right? Imagine if you could sit down and be with each other and be in disagreement and still breathe and still be present and look each other in the eye and say, I do not agree with you. And I'm in the room. I'm having the conversation, not running away, not fighting. I've laid down my weapons because I want to connect and figure this out. It might not be perfect. It might not be beautiful. It might not be love. That's not what we're going for. We're going for connection and peace. I think there is so much value in that, whether we're talking on a big scale, countries, people's communities, or if we're talking in our relationship with ourselves. Peace and connection gets us so far, actually being able to be present with ourselves at peace, including with the parts of ourselves that no, we don't love them, right? Like you might have a part of yourself that is wildly stubborn. You might not wake up one day and be like, I really love this stubborn part of me, right? Or a part that always talks too much and shares with everyone. You might not wake up and be like, oh, this is my favorite part of myself, but being able to accept that part and say, this is who I am, and I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to suppress it. I'm not going to try to change it. I'm going to try to support myself, get to know myself better. Like to me, that is so much what resourcing can help us do, build that capacity to learn to be with ourselves rather than judge ourselves and try to be something we're not. So resourcing can help us build that capacity to actually be with ourselves and practice holding space for how we authentically are, rather than trying to be what everyone else wants us to be. But again, that takes capacity. So slowly building that capacity, including capacity for discomfort.
And I love that image that you portrayed of these slow expansion and then maybe a little bit of contraction, and then like 3 steps forwards, 2 steps back, 2 steps back. It's okay. It's okay. There is an ebb and a flow in life, and we move through them all the time.
Yes, this is where the cyclical wisdom is so important, right? Because it's not the cliche says healing is not linear, but it's true, right? It's not then I start therapy and then I get better and then everything is perfect and then I love myself, right? That's how we think it should be, which is why for a lot of us, therapy is hard, because that's not what therapy looks like. When we realize that it's cycles, it's seasons. Sometimes we're going to struggle, and the issue is not the struggle. The struggle is always a symptom of something within us, right? So being present with that struggle and notice I'm in a season of struggling. Let me stay curious. This is why I love the principle of curiosity. I'm very radical about it. Sometimes I'm laughing in sessions with clients when we're talking about, stay curious about this grief or stay curious about this pain, right? What does it feel like? But like just staying really curious about what is there when it's something that's actually really difficult, right? But staying radical about how does it show up? What does it make you feel like? Right? Because learning that also means that you get to know yourself better. So it's not about trying to be something or trying to make that struggle or that pain go away. It's about learning to listen. Listen to the struggle, listen to the pain, listen to what is rising to the surface. And this is, again, what resourcing helps us with, to create that space in our body where those things can actually rise to the surface. And this is also what will slowly heal the burnout. Slowly, because we are living in a world that is burning us out. And we can't make that go away, sadly. But learning to slowly come to a place where step by step we can support ourselves We can drink in energy. We can drink in connection. We can pause. We can slow down. We can take care of ourselves. And my point of view is that is the way back from burnout. Slowly supporting ourselves. Slowly.
Yeah. Increasing the capacity for more joy as well. Like when you increase your capacity to be with the discomfort, you automatically increase the capacity to be and experience joy, pleasure, and all the comfortable emotions that we can feel.
Comfortable, I would say this depends who you are, right? Because actually joy can be very difficult for people. So thank you for bringing that up, because joy can be hard to hold, very hard to hold. So absolutely.
True. I try to just make, like, there are emotions like fear and pain and shame and this, like, sadness. They are not bad emotions. Some people call them good and bad emotions, but that's not true. They are not positive or negative. They are not good or bad. That's why I go with, like, some are more comfortable to experience than others. And of course, if your capacity to hold joy is very, very small, then of course joy is hard to hold. And also, I think it is an agreeable emotion, sensation in and of itself. It might just then be the conditioning that makes us like, oh, am I even allowed to hold that joy? Am I allowed to have that? Can I hold that? Oh my God, what if it leaves right away? And then I want to hold on to it. Like,
and it can feel so much very uncomfortable in the body. It can feel very like it can be hard to be with. So I just wanted to say that, because I think sometimes if we think the goal is to get to joy or get to happiness, right? Chasing something. I just want to validate that it's for some people it can be easier to hold the difficult, like the depression and the shame, and to navigate that than to navigate joy, because joy feels like it's so completely out of reach that we're never getting there. So, but that is definitely connected to building our capacity. The more capacity we have, we can also absolutely hold more joy.
Yeah. In the end, it's about the full spectrum of emotions and being able to hold that more and more and more. If someone would like to reach out to you, get in touch, ask you a question, or even work with you, where can they find you? Where do you tend to hang out the most? How do you love to be contacted and exchange messages with folks?
Where do I hang out? I hang out in my email inbox. I would say I am moving off social media. I've only ever been on Instagram, and I'm there sometimes. So I love to hang out in the DMs on Instagram, actually. So that is a good place to connect with me. I'm very up for any text or voice notes there. I always have my calendar open for free connection calls because I love one-on-one connection. So just connecting with people for, hearing more about somatics, exploring, working with me one-on-one. That's how I meet with new clients always, just having a conversation first to hear, are we a good match for working together? And then I have an online community, which is a good way of getting to know me and get to know my work and explore somatics and ask all the questions you want. So if you want to hang out with me on a more ongoing basis, that's where to do that. It's called Rooted, and it's a beautiful intimate space for women only. And so that's where I hang out.
Okay. And I believe you have a little gift that you wanted to share with us.
I have.
I will link to all of that below, of course, so you can find that in the show notes. But just
I love that.
Tell us what it is.
I have created a little guided grounding to make some of this resourcing more concrete. So in that, I share 3 different ways of connecting with a resource. So it's a good, supportive little kind of meditation that you can listen to when you want to resource and get more into the practice of resourcing.
Oh, amazing. A great companion to this episode. Thank you so much. Do you have any last words? Is there anything that you want to either reiterate from what we've already shared, or something that you feel we haven't addressed yet and that you just want to mention? Or do you have a message that you just want to leave everyone with before we wrap up? Well, I know you have a lot of messages, you have a lot to say, as do I.
Yeah, I could talk about this for days. So when you're like, is there something you left out? Yes, almost everything, because this is the core of the work for me. So there's much I could say. I think I mostly want to share just a few reminders because I find them helpful always. So slow down, an invitation to slow down, breathe, check in with yourself. Just notice how you're doing, how you're feeling. Practice being present for yourself, supporting yourself, including on the hard days, including on the days where you don't like yourself. Still be present for yourself in a compassionate way. Remember that you can resource, that you can always practice resourcing, and ask for help when you need it. Lean into support, be vulnerable, connect with others. You are not alone.
Thank you. Allowing everyone a moment to let that sink in. Thank you so much, Lise, for having had this conversation with me. It was a true joy. Thank you for all the small and simple ways that you showed us how we can resource ourselves, especially in these times that we're living in, when we're on the brink of burnout. And also, I dare say, when we're fine and everything is wonderful, because those are the moments where it's easiest to access those states and really feel it, so that when we hit a low point in the future, our body and our mind will remember.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Then I wish everyone a beautiful rest of your day, wherever you're at, whatever time of day it is, and speak to you next time. Bye.
Bye.